Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Rimler, and if you're watching this video, then you started our module on designing asynchronous online instruction. This video is the first part of a four-part series of videos, but if you would prefer to read the content of this module, you have that option as well. I've also created an audio file, so if you'd rather listen to it while you're walking or commuting to campus, you can listen to the entire portion of this module in audio format. This first video covers overviews and introductions as well as alignment of online instruction. Lately, almost everyone has gotten a taste of online learning, but because schools were forced to pivot to online environments last spring, many teachers did so without really knowing how to do it. Some systems provided rapid learning opportunities so that faculty could build online courses, but these last-minute learning opportunities often occurred at the same time that faculty had to be actually teaching online. The result was that many teachers and schools relied on using web conferencing applications as the primary method of teaching. Pivoting to that method is grounded in the assumption that teaching in a classroom can be replicated by using a webcasting system such as Zoom, Google Meet, Skype, or GoToMeeting. But many of us can attest that assumption is invalid. I strongly recommend that you resist the strategy of relying entirely on web conferencing for your online instruction. It's inappropriate to assume that all e-learning must take place in real time. It's inappropriate to attempt to equate time in a classroom with time in online instruction. They are two different modalities, two different pedagogies, so they require two different design and implementation strategies. 6 hours with a group of students in a classroom can be very effective. 6 hours of real-time instruction via computer will be burdensome. Keeping several best practices in mind, you can design units and lessons, often called modules, that take place synchronously and asynchronously so that students have a better chance of success. First, let's review our key terms. Synchronous instruction occurs when the instructor and students are engaging in learning activities together at the same time. Asynchronous instruction occurs when the students engage with the instructor and the course content at different times and different places. Let's also acknowledge our learning context. You've already completed Georgia Virtual School's Digital Learning Days Just in Time for Teachers. That training session introduced you to the basics of teaching online. You've also already completed Google training sessions on digital literacy and using Google Apps for digital teaching. As you continue through your undergraduate program, you will also earn your Google Certification Educator 1's status. And as you have taken your curriculum courses, you've had to complete assignments designed for online environments. Because of all of those opportunities, I know that you're not starting from scratch. In fact, you're already well on your way to learning how to be an effective online educator. But we educators should always continue learning about our profession, and this module will focus on how you can design asynchronous learning opportunities for your online students. So let's get started. First, we should talk about online classroom norms. If you think about it, when you start out teaching in a face-to-face classroom, you spend much time and energy helping your students to learn the class routines, the policies, the expectations. In other words, you help your students master the class norms. Remember when you did your immersion simulations last semester? The conversation you had with those avatar students was focused on helping them learn class norms. Online classes must also include information to familiarize students with class norms. That's why the beginning of this class includes a tour of our Folio eClassroom, an introduction, discussion, and a syllabus quiz. Those activities were designed to help you understand what your professor expects from you and what you can expect from your professor. They also help you to know where to find certain tools and resources, and they help you to know the best ways to communicate with your professor and with each other. Just as you would in a face-to-face classroom, you should provide opportunities in an online classroom to make sure your students know your expectations. Here are some examples of how you can do that. You could create a video tour of the online learning environment. You could create a welcome video where you introduce yourself and tell students a little bit about yourself and your teaching style. You could have your students engage in introductory exercises, either via web conferencing or written discussions through the discussion board or via digital video. You can make sure that your students know where they can find the class rules, assignment guidelines, policies, and other instructional tools. And you could give your students your best email address and phone number for reaching you. Those don't have to be your personal phone number or email address, but they need to be something that's reliable that they can depend on using if they need your help. You would also be smart to let your students know the times when they can regularly find you online, kind of like office hours, but electronically. You could create a course map or schedule or a calendar or some kind of document that students can refer to and follow often. You would also be smart to refer to it often in the course to remind students where they can find that important basic information. Please provide your students the phone numbers, email addresses, and URLs where they can get technology support. You don't have to be that source of that information, but someone in your school system does have the expertise to help students overcome the technology challenges that might arise as they progress through the course. So give the students the contact information for those personnel so they can reach out to them when they need them. And finally, give students instruction on online discussion etiquette. That might also include instruction on how you expect them to behave and dress during Zoom meetings. Once it's time to design and plan the actual lessons, it's important that you use backward design when you do so. Important curriculum design concepts like these apply across instructional formats, so alignment and backward design are just as important in online formats as they are in face-to-face formats. Because we've covered backward design and alignment at the beginning of this term, I won't repeat those concepts here. If you need a refresher on those concepts, please return to the first few modules of this practicum and review those materials there. Here, I'll just remind you that any well-designed instruction, no matter where it takes place, should be aligned so that the student learning objectives are aligned with the assessments, and then the learning activities serve as the opportunities for students to practice with concepts so that they can succeed in their assessments, thereby meeting performance objectives. Be sure that your objectives are measurable and observable. Even when learning online, students can still demonstrate in an observable way that they've met objectives. They can discuss, solve, question, research, analyze, explain, identify, classify, compare, contrast, and experiment in online settings, so be sure that your objectives are expressed in those observable ways. Use Bloom's taxonomy or the depth of knowledge scale to guide you as you align your instruction. This concludes the first video of our 4-part series. When you finish this one, please move forward to the Part 2 video, which will discuss instructional materials.